So what's good, TMG fam? It's your boy L, and I'm back with another reaction. How y'all feel? Welcome back to the channel. Salute, man. And today, whatever time you checking this video out, we about to check out some secrets that's hidden inside mountains. Yeah, last place I would think to look. But when I think about it, man, I've seen them put like certain government locations in mountains. Again, the last place I would think to look. So we're gonna get into this video, man, which should be very, very interesting. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button, join the fam. All right, once you do that, let's get to this video. Here we go.
Mountains. Imposingly tall, majestically mystical, and utterly unforgiving. Only the toughest people have what it takes to explore these mysterious rock monsters. Which is exactly why their craggy expanses are still loaded with strange secrets. So grab your rucksack and make sure you've brought along enough rations, because we're about to take a look at the biggest secrets hidden inside mountains. Tomb of the Unknown. First stop, Turkey. A land known for its traditional tea, buzzing bazaars, and of course, Turkish delight. But if you take a short drive north of the city of Çorum, you'll come across something altogether more curious. A road out of the city leads to an old, overgrown mountain. At the base of the...
Listen, they said road out of the city. Listen to the details and the location.
This mountain is a steep trail leading up that eventually ends at a door embedded into the rock right at the top. But why would you bother making the treacherous ascent? Well, it's not just a door built into some rock. It's a whole cube-shaped building, dating all the way back to the 2nd century BC. Archaeologists reckon it's a tomb of some sort, but it's so ancient that we can't be sure of much else. Even more baffling is that despite looking like a door, there's no way of opening it and seeing what's inside. Just one clue survives. An intriguing inscription above the entrance, simply reading, Ezekios. Who Ezekios was, we don't know. That's a secret they very literally took to the grave. Castle on the Crag. When you think of castles, you might imagine them atop hills or in the center of lakes. You probably don't expect them to be built halfway up the side of a huge, sheer cliff face. But that's...
Yo, you gotta be a thrill seeker to like sleep comfortably in that. You like, look at that. Nah, bro. No way. That's gotta be a prison, because I don't think nobody's like willing to live there.
It's exactly where you'll find the Prejama Castle in south-central Slovenia. Built in the 13th century within the mouth of a cave, the creepy-looking castle is supposedly haunted by the ghosts of its former occupants. The most famous of these was the knight Erasmus of Lueg.
There's definitely some bats in that place.
A robber baron that lived there during the 15th century. For Erasmus, the castle was perfect. Its position in the cliff cave made it almost impenetrable to attackers. Plus, when under siege, the knight made use of a secret passage around the back of the castle to escape unnoticed and return with stolen food for everyone. Unfortunately for old Erasmus, his luck didn't last forever. According to legend, he was betrayed by one of his own men and shot by a cannon whilst using the lavatory.
Dang.
Talk about an explosive.
That's a rough way to go out. Come on, man. Not while I'm doing my business. You know what I'm saying?
Shot by a cannon whilst using the lavatory. Man, talk about an explosive poop. If you want to guarantee your friends will never betray you, there's no better way than to hit those like and subscribe buttons.
You know what that castle also made me think of? For some strange reason, I know y'all gonna think I'm weird and crazy, but Batman. Cave. Okay.
You'll never miss...
Maybe I am weird.
...any of my amazing content again, and your friends will love hearing all the crazy new facts that you've got to tell them. Anyway, where were we? The Lost Treasure Trove. High up in the Peruvian mountains, the 15th century citadel of Machu Picchu has been a source of wonder and mystery since it was first discovered in 1911 by American explorer Hiram Bingham. More recently, however, the site's got a whole lot more mysterious. In 2010, French engineer David Crespi was taking measurements of the Incan ruins when he noticed a door he'd never seen before, sealed off by stones. Convinced it was significant, Crespi got in touch with renowned archaeologist Thierry Jamin. A few months later, Jamin arrived on the scene with a nifty electromagnetic scanner capable of detecting objects behind walls. Sure enough, after scanning the sealed alcove, he found there was a staircase hidden behind the stones that led down to a whole chamber. Not only this, but there were vast quantities of metals in there too.
Ooh.
In other words, treasure. And lots of it.
Ooh.
Jamin and Crespi were beside themselves with excitement. The chamber could be anything, even the tomb of Incan ruler Pachacuti Inca Yapanqui, the very person experts think Machu Picchu was built for. Wasting no time, the thrilled twosome contacted the Ministry of Culture to request permission to remove the stones blocking the way. But the unthinkable happened.
I knew
Their
it.
request
I knew it. I knew something was about to happen, fam. Come on, man.
was denied. The ministry was worried that moving the stones would collapse the entire structure. No matter how much Jamin argued, it was no use. To this day, the secret door remains firmly sealed, and no one's been inside for hundreds of years. Maybe it's for the best. I've seen the mummy. Mount Rushmore's secret room. When it comes to man-made mountains, arguably none are more famous than Mount Rushmore in the Black Hills of South Dakota. As such, you might expect it to be the last place to have retained any kind of secret. Well, you'd be wrong. Hidden behind the enormous statue of Abraham Lincoln's head, there's a gaping 70-foot-long tunnel. This isn't a mistake or a fault in the rock. It's actually a little-known room purposefully built into the side of the mountain. You see, Gutzon Borglum, the sculptor of the memorial on Mount Rushmore, had initially wanted to carve an inscription beside the giant heads, one big enough to be read from afar. When this proved impossible, however, he came up with a new plan, to create a room within the mountain to hold all the documents and artifacts central to American democratic history. This room would be called the Hall of Records, and exist so that the history it contained would never be forgotten. Between July 1938 and 1939, the tunnel was blasted into the mountain using dynamite. But with the start of World War II, and then Borglum's unexpected death in 1941, unfortunately never finished. Finally, over 40 years later in 1998, it was decided that a locked box of records be placed in the floor of the tunnel. It contains the story of how Mount Rushmore came to be carved, as well as a short history of the U.S. and 4 presidents depicted on the mountain. But if you're hoping you can go see it, don't get ahead of yourself. The secret repository isn't accessible to visitors. Thrill of the hunt.
Really? Don't get ahead of yourself, really? He gonna stop that.
Young or old, there's not much that excites the imagination more than a good treasure hunt. Forrest Fenn, an ex-pilot in the U.S. Air Force, knew this all too well. So when he was sadly diagnosed with terminal cancer back in 1988, he decided to rouse public imagination one last time. It just so happened Fenn was rich, and he had a whopping great stash of gold nuggets, rare coins, jewelry, and gemstones that he'd acquired throughout his life. Like $2 million worth of the stuff. The ex-pilot gathered his treasures into a chest and set off to hide the stash somewhere far away from his home in Santa Fe. Then, amazingly, after he'd hidden the chest, he recovered. Determined to pursue the idea anyway, Fenn wrote and released a memoir in 2010.
For some strange reason, since we were talking about it, I'm guessing somebody's found a gold, found a treasure. Just once. Can I just get, let me just once.
Only, this wasn't an ordinary memoir. The text held cryptic rules to the treasure's whereabouts. Later, Fenn released another book, this time with a map included alongside an enigmatic 24-line poem. People went wild. Before long, anyone who'd bought the book was whipped up into a frenzy trying to decipher the clues and find the golden goodies. Would-be adventurers braved the treacherous mountains in search of the treasure, and tragically, 5 people lost their lives while hunting it down. It wasn't until almost a...
See, now that's the bad side to it. Dang. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it alone then. I thought about it though.
decade later, in 2019, that Jack Stoof, a 32-year-old student from Michigan, finally came across the sought-after stash. And no, he isn't telling anyone where it was, instead saying he wants a special spot to remain a secret, just so it stays in pristine condition. All we know is it was somewhere in Wyoming. As for the treasure itself, well, in possibly the most menial end to a treasure hunt story ever, Stoof sold it all at auction to pay off his student loans. Treasure Island, this is not.
After they just released that they're gonna be paying off a lot more student loans, I bet I know he kicking himself now. We are. It still remains to be seen about these student loans getting paid off. But if they do pay off all these student loans, he is gonna be pissed.
Camouflaged Colossus.
Jeez.
In the ancient city of Cholula in Pueblo, Mexico, a huge mountain has dominated the landscape around it for centuries. Or at least people thought it was a mountain. It's actually much, much more. When Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés arrived in Mexico back in 1519, he and his men pillaged Cholula and built a Catholic church atop the mountain, which still stands today. Little did they know they'd actually built the church atop the biggest monument on the whole planet. That's right, the so-called mountain is actually a colossal pyramid with a base 4 times bigger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. In fact, it's more like a huge Russian doll of pyramids, 6, all built on top of one another. With the stupendous structure dating all the way back to 300 BC, archaeologists reckon that it was gradually added to and expanded over time by successive Aztec civilizations. It took so long for anybody to realize what it truly was, because the whole thing was built from mud. Yep, mud. In dry climates like Mexico's, mud structures actually prove extremely durable and can last for thousands of years. But they also make a fertile platform for a tropical jungle to grow, which is exactly what happened in Cholula. The towering temple was abandoned around the 7th century AD and got so overgrown that it became indistinguishable from a natural mountain. Because of this, it was spared Cortez's wrath and still stands strong today, albeit mostly covered in grass and trees. What a monumental achievement. Gate of the Gods. Sometimes the real world is almost as fantastical as fiction. Aramu Muru, or the Gate of the Gods, is such a place where this rings undeniably true. Discovered in the 1990s near Lake Titicaca, don't laugh, in Peru.
See, I wasn't gonna laugh, man. Now, see, I'm bringing out the childish side of me.
Strange rock carving is thought to be an abandoned Incan construction project, though nobody knows for sure. Legend says that long ago a golden disc fell from the sky. An Incan priest caught the disc and placed it into the depression in the rock, causing it to open like a door. There are plenty of modern legends surrounding Aramu Muru as well. Locals tell of abnormally tall men accompanied by glowing orbs walking through the doorway. Paranormal writer Jerry Willis claims that these legends are true, and that he himself once traveled through the rock as if it's some kind of portal. Because of all this, the carving has made a name for itself as one of the most mysterious places in Peru, and become a popular destination for tourists interested in the paranormal. What do you think?
I think that lady right there have a heart attack. If that thing open up, lose her mind right now and trying to get a picture.
Abandoned Incan building or supernatural portal into another dimension? Let me know down in the comments. Men in the Mountains.
I think they should let somebody just like sit, or somebody should try to like put a camera up there and just capture footage of it continuously.
If you went for a stroll near Colorado's Cheyenne Mountain, you'd probably take note of the lush forest and abundant wildlife. You might not realize you were walking right next to a top-secret government facility hidden within the heart of the mountain. Now, unbelievably, this isn't a Bond villain's evil lair, but it is very real. Built in the 1960s during the height of Cold War paranoia, miners dug a whopping 693,000 tons of granite out from the mountain in order to construct the base inside. Described as a super bunker, the facility is protected by a staggering 2,000 feet of rock and can withstand electromagnetic pulses, bioweapons, and even nuclear bombs. This makes it a perfect base of operations for the North American Aerospace Defense Command, a government organization charged with protecting the US and Canada from airborne attacks. Staff can spend long stints inside the mountain without coming out at all, so it's less like a bunker and more like a small town. 15 buildings stand on 1,300 giant springs, so they won't collapse in case of a blast. And as well as accommodation and government buildings, there's a clinic, gym, store, and even a subway. Because nothing says eat fresh like being stuck deep underground with a load of sweaty military dudes. If a threat is detected from the outside world, huge 25-ton blast doors are set to close, locking all occupants firmly inside. But with 6 million gallons of water and a whole load of food supplies, anybody behind the doors would be able to survive for months without having to leave. I like Subway as much as the next guy, but spicy Italian for breakfast, lunch, and dinner would...
Yes, it gets old, bro. I used to be a truck driver. Trust me, it gets old, fam.
Get old fast. Rockin'.
It's like all they had in those truck stops, man. It was like Subway, Arby's, McDonald's, or a chicken joint.
Oh. Tucked away in the highlands of western Ethiopia, near the town of Lalibela, lies a very strange sight. Dug deep into the rock above the town are 11 huge pits. Look down into these pits and you'll see something even stranger. Each one has an intricate structure built into it, all uniquely different from one another and yet with the same recognizable style. So, what are they? A message from the ancient aliens? A relic of some long-distant civilization? The second guess is more accurate than the first, I'm afraid. The structures are actually big stone churches, commissioned by the late 12th and early 13th century Ethiopian king, Gebre Meskel Lalibela. The king wanted to create the holy city of Jerusalem in his own kingdom, and so ordered the churches to be built, with each to be hewn from the rock using chisels. For 24 years, builders chipped away from the top down, creating the pits as they carved out the shapes of the churches. This unconventional way of...
24 years. That's dedication right there.
The pits as they carved out the shapes of the churches. This unconventional way of building led to each church being entirely monolithic. That is, made from just one piece of rock. Not only this, but the structures stand 50 feet high, about as tall as 5 African elephants stacked on top of each other. You might think that doesn't sound that tall, but remember, they were dug using hand chisels. Woo! Today, the site is used by the Ethiopian Orthodox Christian Church and remains an important visiting place for pilgrims following the religion. So, at least all the back-breaking labor was worth it. Those workers must have been a hell of a lot harder than the rock they were chipping at. Skulls and superstitions. You know those dreams that you have that seem so real you could mistake them for memories? Well, supposedly, one Bulgarian man had just such a dream back in 2001. The man dreamt that a host of humanoid figures dressed in metallic yellow led him to a spot in the Rhodope Mountains in southern Bulgaria. So far, so normal. I've had much stranger dreams. But when he woke up, the man felt compelled to go back to the same spot. And when he got there, he found something extraordinary. A small skull lay there, no bigger than a human baby's, but with wildly different features. The man took it to both an archaeologist and a paleontologist, but things just got weirder. Neither of them had ever seen anything like it. Soon word got around, and people's theories started coming in thick and fast. One theory was that the skull belonged to a genetically engineered creature created by the Atlanteans. Yes, the same Atlanteans that inhabited the legendary underwater city. Interesting, but I can't say I'm sold on that one. Another theory claimed it belonged to an alien that got the wrong end of a weapon during the Second World War. Okay. As much as I'd like to believe that, it's most likely that the skull belonged to an animal and got damaged over time, distorting its features.
What is it, bro? Like, that's on some, like, Predator type. How many people was thinking Predator? That's what that looked like, the face of. And it now I can hear that Predator sound from the movie. I gotta get that out my head.
However, we may never know. Inexplicably, the skull vanished without a trace. And you want to know the really freaky thing? The Rhodope Mountains, where it was found, are home to a mythical sanctuary speculated to have a library of ancient knowledge hidden within its rock. So maybe, just maybe, the skull and the sanctuary are linked. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments.
I think stuff like that don't just disappear. That's what I think.
All that glitters. When I was a kid, I used to have a metal detector I'd go hunting for treasure with. The most I ever found, though, was an old nickel. Villagers in the Democratic Republic of the Congo's town of Luhihi, however, found a hell of a lot more when they started digging into a nearby mountain back in 2019. Specifically, gold. Lots and lots of gold. So much so that people from all around began flooding in to grab their share of the shiny substance. It was pandemonium. People were digging gold out by the handful, literally. It turns out, the level of gold in the mountain was so high that between a whopping 60% and 90% of it was made from the precious metal. Man, there'd be nothing left of it if I lived anywhere nearby. But if you do, you're not in much luck either. With the tiny village facing immense pressure from the sudden influx of people, local authorities were forced to ban mining entirely. Damn, there goes another golden opportunity. The Veiled Temples. I've always wanted to visit the Alps. You can go skiing, take a dip in the clear lakes, or just relax. But in the foothills of the northern Italian Alps, there's something far more clandestine you can go and see. An unsuspecting mine shaft in the rock opens out and leads to this, a vast underground network of beautiful, intricately made temples. You might think they'd been there for thousands of years, but no. These remarkable pieces of architecture have only been around since 1978. The really incredible thing, though, is that they were built without the help of any engineers or architects over the course of 15 years, and completely in secret from the Italian government. When the police eventually did find the temples in 1992, they were so in awe that they scrapped their original plans to destroy the unpermitted buildings. But who built them and why? A group called the Federation of Damanhur are responsible for the extravagant mountain temples. Their leader, Oberto Airaudi, claimed to have had visions of ancient temples since the age of 10. Believing them to be instructions, in 1978 he set about bringing these visions to life, and in doing so, amassed a group of like-minded followers that helped him achieve his dream. Today, the group numbers about 1,000 people, who all live in and around the sprawling mountain complex, following a blend of New Age and pagan rituals. They insist that their ethos is celebrate science, art, and spirituality, but critics say they're nothing more than a cult. Regardless, there's no denying the impressiveness of their work. Mystifying Meijishan. Far to the east of Italy, in China's Gansu province, a very odd mountain stands tall against the surrounding landscape. Its name? Mount Meiji. And no, it isn't famous for wielding a cloak and a magic staff, but rather for the series of 194 caves carved meticulously into its side. They're not just caves, though. In total, over 7,000 sculptures and almost 11,000 square feet of murals lie within their craggy depths. That's because this mystical place is actually the site of the Meijishan Buddhist grottos. It's believed that about 1,600 years ago, a group of Buddhist priests came to the mountain to meditate, before starting a community there. Most, if not all, of the caves are man-made, a feat only made possible with years of work. Even more impressive are the giant Buddhas that adorn the walls outside, made from great wooden skeletons covered in clay. They're impressive, yes, but feasibly possible. Less understandable are the numerous sandstone statues dotted around the complex. Sandstone isn't indigenous to the region, so not only was it sourced from far away, but it would have also had to have been lugged all the way up the mountainside somehow. To this day, the mystery remains. Maybe achieving enlightenment grants you the power to literally make things lighter? I don't know. Cryptic kruptenstein. What's your dream home? A cozy cottage in the south of France, a studio apartment in LA? How about a cold, dank castle built terrifyingly high up a cliffside in southeast Switzerland? Well, everyone's different, I suppose. Castle Kruptenstein is just such a place, but its former residents, the Counts of Kruptenstein, probably didn't pick it as their first choice. Very little is known about this strange abode, but it was probably built around the 13th century to keep its inhabitants safe from potential attackers. Safe, but certainly not snug. A nerve-wrackingly narrow path across the east side of the cliff face leads to the castle, and originally didn't even have a fence. That drop is a whole lot of nope. But if you did get to the castle without falling to your doom, it'd be very easy to defend. Though apparently this didn't save the Kruptensteins. Nowadays, the castle lies in ruin after the Counts of Kruptenstein vanished from the records in the 15th century. Nobody knows their fate, and the eerie remains of their old residence refuses to reveal its dark secrets. I'm not going to be braving that path anytime soon to try and solve the mystery. Are you? Left hanging. If you're ever enjoying a nice mountain walk and come across a long, rectangular wooden box tucked away somewhere, whatever you do, don't open it. Why? Because it's probably got a dead body inside. Okay, this doesn't apply to any old mountains, but if you're in China, the Philippines, or Indonesia, it's more than likely. This isn't because those countries have a disproportionate number of killers on their hiking trails, no. It's actually because the ancient peoples that lived there thousands of years ago used to hang their dead in coffins from the mountainside.
Whoa.
China has some of the most famous hanging coffins.
No way. No, whoa. Yo. That is not what we're looking at. Please tell me that's not what we're looking at.
In the world. And hundreds of them still hang ominously across the country's mountains today, put there by the ancient Bo people some 3,000 years ago. Literature from the time of the Tang Dynasty some 1,400 years ago suggests that the higher the coffins were placed, the more respect the living had for the coffin's occupants. However, some argue that the bizarre funerary practice simply served to keep the land free for farming, while ensuring the bodies were safe from wild animals. Perplexingly, though, the oldest coffins are packed with sand, making them enormously heavy and begging the question of how they were hauled up so high in the first place. However, with the peoples responsible for them long extinct, and the records they made lost, it's a question that we don't have a solid answer for. Just don't get too hung up about it. Okay, I think that's...
I would have... That's just something you don't see every day. I would have never guessed you would pull up on a mountain and it'd be coffins hung up all the way upside the mountain, man. Like now when people talk about people scaling the mountain, before I was thinking it was people just stroking their ego. And to some extent, it still is. Some people are just stroking their ego, but now it's like, no, y'all are up there looking for things, whether it's treasure, whether whatever it is, you're looking for something, trying to find something or discover something. See, now I see, yeah, y'all just changed the game for me, because before that,
sure I understand.
Stop listening. Before I was just thinking, it was just that. But now looking at that, man, it's more than just government locations hidden inside a mountain. No, it's way more, bro. That's insane. Or you could roll up there and just see a bunch of coffins. That's insane too. Man, y'all listen, bro. I can go on all night. Y'all get at me in the comment section. Let me know what you think. And yeah, stick around and stay tuned, man. It's the next one. I'm gone. Peace.